Every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides on political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Good evening and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News. I am Ebolomo Adekunle. In a major story, President Goodluck Jonathan urges Nigerians not to despair, assuring that the nation's future is bright. Also in this program, APC presidential candidate Muhammadu Buhari and Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola charged the federal government and Nigerians in peace and security. Frederick Bakare of the Lateran Assembly calls for a shift of the 2015 general elections to avoid violence and bloodshed. And outside Nigeria, North Korea slammed the United States of America's sanction for alleged Sony Hawk, says it is an hostile act. President Goodluck Jonathan has assured all Nigerians that the nation will get to the promised land despite the various challenges facing the nation. Jonathan, who partook in the first Sunday of the year service at St. Stephen's Anglican Church, Otoke, Bayelsa State, says the nation has huge potential in all sectors and parts of the country. Jonathan says his administration will continue to tap into the potentials which abound in the country to move the nation forward. He added that the country's future is bright despite the bumps and challenges currently confronting her. He used the opportunity to thank the church and Christians for praying for the nation, stressing that the period was a challenging one, not only for the country, but the whole world. Meanwhile, President Goodluck Jonathan has lost his sister, Nancy Jonathan Olay, to a brief illness. According to a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ruben Abati, the deceased died on Sunday at a hospital in Yenogwa, Bayelsa State. She is said to have died during a brief illness. She was 52 years old. A motion to adopt President Goodluck Jonathan as the consensus candidate of the Igbos for the presidential election has failed at the Imelbi in a caucus meeting of the Ohanaeze Ndigbo in Enugu. Although the adoption of Jonathan as the consensus candidate of the Igbos was not part of the agenda of the meeting, which held at the organization's secretariat in Enugu, but midway into the meeting, a People's Democratic Party chieftain, Emmanuel Uwayao, moved the motion urging Ohanaeze to adopt Jonathan for the election. Uwayao informed the Imelbi that he came with a message from 90% of Igbos who were supporting Jonathan's election for a second term and asked the meeting to give him an answer to give back to the president. But the motion did not get the expected response, forcing the president, General Gary Igariwe, to adjourn the meeting, which ended abruptly amidst a shouting match between those against and those in support of the failed motion to adopt Jonathan as the consensus presidential candidate of Ndigbo, with Uwayao walking out of the meeting following the development. The communique released after the meeting, however, explained that the motion for the adoption of a presidential candidate was kept in abeyance until further notice, pending further consultation by Ohanaize's leadership. The All Progressives Congress in the Southeast aspersed Ohanaize Indigbo for shooting down a motion for the endorsement of President Goodluck Jonathan as the candidate of the Igbos in the 2015 presidential election. A statement by spokesman of the APC in the Southeast, Osita Okechukwu, says those that opposed the motion moved by a People's Democratic Party chieftain, Emmanuel Nwayawu, at the Imeobi meeting of the Ohanaize Indigbo as true Igbo patriots. Okechukwu disclosed his happiness that Indigbo have realized that it doesn't make sense to put all the eggs in one basket, especially when the political scenario in the 2015 presidential election differs remarkably from that of 2011 when Jonathan was endorsed. According to him, if the Hausas and Yorubas have spread their dragnets in both PDP and APC, then Indigbo should not blame anybody for marginalization in the event of APC's victory in the forthcoming 14th February 2015 presidential election. He stressed that the APC in the Southeast believes that Ohanaize Indigbo should remain neutral in the 2015 general elections, as there are Igbos in all the parties. He noted that only the self-serving Igbo politicians could rise up in the midst of the prevailing political scenario, which favors APC to canvass for Jonathan's endorsement. Senate President David Mark has assured the political class and all public office seekers and advised them to make service to the society and the welfare security of the people the cornerstone of their ambitions. Mark, according to a statement by his Chief Press Secretary Paul Mume, says any political ambition not anchored on that premise will fail. The Senate President stated this while speaking at Igumale, Ado local government area of Benue State on Saturday after receiving the traditional title of Ogloneku Egidi, meaning the only tree big enough to cover the forest. Mark's wife, Helen, also on the occasion was honored with the traditional title of the Ofianya, meaning a woman greater than her peers, by the paramount ruler of Igumale land, or Chakba of Igumale, Chief Joseph Ochili. Mark said the chieftaincy titles conferred on him and his wife will act as a catalyst to spur them to continue rendering selfless services to the people diligently, honestly, fairly, and with the fear of God. The presidential flag bearer of the All Progressives Congress in the forthcoming general elections, Muhammadu Buhari, says government should not be involved with what religion people practice, but ensure security of lives and property of citizens. Buhari stated this at the 16th annual Lagos State Thanksgiving service. Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola urged Nigerians to focus on factors that will strengthen the peaceful coexistence of the country rather than concentrating on those that could be a threat to the unity of the country.
I believe that all Nigerians must be free to worship God according to their beliefs. The duty of government is not religion. The duty of government is to ensure peace, security for all Nigerians, regardless of tribe, race, or religion. This is the commitment that you all must make, especially on this day of Thanksgiving.
We must focus on our common humanity. We must focus on those things that we share together, and we must focus less on those things that are different about us. Our languages, our religion, our ethnic origins are only accidents of our birth and not the essential content of our humanity.
Former Vice President and Chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, Atiku Abubakar, says a statement made by the People's Democratic Party's National Secretary that he will return to the PDP before the elections is nothing but lies. The PDP had on Friday said it was wooing former members of the party, including Atiku Abubakar and Kwakwanso, who defected to the All Progressives Congress, to return to the party before the next general elections. But in his reaction, Director General of the Atiku Media Office, Garba Shehu, says there is no plan by Atiku to return to the PDP, describing it as lies being peddled by mischief makers. Kwakwanso, who was one of the 7 PDP governors who walked out of the party's mini-convention last year to protest injustices within the party, also denied making any moves to return to his former party. Part of his grievances included the alleged high-handedness of the then Bamanga Tukuru-led National Executive Committee. The governor, who spoke through his Director of Press and Public Relations, Baba Dantiye, described the news of a possible return to the PDP as baseless and a clear case of desperation on the part of the People's Democratic Party. The Kano is the Kano Central Senatorial District candidate of the APC. With the ultimatum given to the People's Democratic Party to withdraw the governorship candidate of the party, Nyesom Wike, from 2015 general elections set to expire on Monday, the PDP Elders Forum has condemned the call for the substitution of the candidate. The Rivers Elders and Leaders Council had last week issued a 7-day ultimatum to the national and state leadership of the PDP to substitute Wike with the candidates from the riverine area, failing which they will mobilize the people of the state against him. But a statement from the PDP Leaders Forum says the call for Wike's substitution is undemocratic and an attempt to hurt the fortunes of the party and the re-election bid of President Goodluck Jonathan. The PDP Elders Forum also condemned the threat to mobilize people against the PDP governorship candidate, saying it has an act of mischief and sabotage. The statement issued in Port Harcourt was signed by its chairman, Ferdinand Alabra, and also queried the rationale behind the involvement of Albert Osfall, the council's chairman, in the affairs of the PDP. It's the CoreTV Primetime News. We'll take a break now and we'll return with more reports. Stay with us.
Mommy Bolale Karo. Yakudi, Ekaro, customer.
Make we dey always follow our conscience because they tell us the correct thing.
I suppose Sabi waiting good.
Do the right thing. Let's change the way we think.
Thank you for being there. And if you're just joining us, here are the stories that made our headlines. President Goodluck Jonathan urges Nigerians not to despair, assuring that the nation's future is bright. APC presidential candidate Muhammadu Buhari and Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola charged the federal government and Nigerians on peace and security. Tunde Bakari of the Lateran Assembly calls for a shift of the 2015 general elections to avoid violence and bloodshed. And for more news and other information, you can visit a social media platform. On Facebook, facebook.com/CoreTV News. Our Twitter handle at CoreTV News NG. And on YouTube, youtube.com/CoreTV, leave a space, then news. Presiding pastor of the Lateran Assembly, Tunde Bakari, says the nation should step back from the conduct of the 2015 general elections in February this year because, according to him, the conditions for peaceful, free and fair polls do not currently exist in the country. Tunde Bakari, who spoke to newsmen in Lagos after his first Sunday service for the year, says the nation is sitting on the edge of a precipice as none of the two leading candidates or their supporters will accept any other outcome but victory for their candidate.
Ahead of us. Either way, the North or those in the North inflicting so much pain on our nation via Boko Haram do not have monopoly of violence any longer. And if you hear threats coming from both sides, if a Northerner appears and wins the election, the South, whether he has won that election fair and square or not, will allege rigging. If Jonathan wins the election fair and square, they will allege the power of incumbency that the election has been rigged. The weather is not conducive for another election in 2015, in February for that matter. And I've quoted the right portions of the Constitution that empowers both the President and the National Assembly for a 6 month by 6 month by 6 month extension, provided it's not just to stay in power and to elongate, but to be working critically to ensure that these things are put in place before we go and to election. That's my considered opinion, and I believe I have the Spirit of God. Yes.
He says the issue of dwindling revenue to government at all levels can be addressed if the National Conference framework for fiscal federalism is implemented to ensure that all parts of Nigeria develop at their own pace.
If you put things in place that people see justice, fair play, and the purpose of government becomes, the central focus of government becomes the welfare of the people, and they are seeing the things that will augur for peaceful coexistence in a true federal structure, all those things will take care of itself. Because if there's fiscal federalism today, I'm not depending on your resources anymore. I'm working on my own. You're working on your own. In 2014 National Conference, we asked that a tangible portion of our national is be dedicated to development of all the mineral resources in other parts of the country. There's no part of this nation that's not endowed. But we have depended upon only one of those mineral resources, namely oil, and we have depleted everything, and that is crashing already anyway with the price that is falling. So it's about time to sit down and say, let's go to the to the table of brotherhood. All these things that we got without any division, no voting. All the things that we got together there are already raw materials to effect the necessary change. I do not like change as a slogan. I do not like change that has no substance. I like to see that constructive change. If I say, oh, I'm born again, I'm a changed person, I'm spirit-filled, but you find me still doing the things that I was doing before, then my dog has returned to his vomit. Do you understand me? If those things are done, they can be done. Look, in the past, with military alacrity, or how did they put it in those days? Immediate, whatever it is. We need, I'm not calling for the military, don't misunderstand me. We need such urgency at this time to critically deal with what we are faced with.
The Edo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party says that Nigeria will remain united after the 2015 general elections, despite speculations that the nation would record a repeat of the 2011 post-election violence. State chairman of the party, Dan Obi, made this disclosure while delivering President Goodluck Jonathan's message at the official flag-off campaign to support the president's re-election bid and the election of the national and state assembly candidates of the party in Igara and Auchi headquarters of Akokwedo and Esako West local government areas of the state. While calling for massive support for the South-South geopolitical zone for the president's re-election, Obi added that doing otherwise would be detrimental to the oil-rich zone. The Otaru of Igara, Adeche Saiki II, advised politicians in the state to shun politics of bitterness and desperation by allowing voters to freely express themselves at the polls. The All Progressives Congress in Ekiti State has condemned the state chairman of the Nigeria Union of Teachers, Samuel Akosile, for disowning teachers who apologized to former Governor Kayode Fayemi. Akosile, while reacting to a program on an Ondo State-based radio, Adaba FM, said teachers had no regrets for voting against Fayemi in the June 21, 2014 governorship election in the state, describing those who rendered the apologies as Fayemi's apologists and not members of the union. But the APC, in a statement by its State Publicity Secretary Taiwo Olatubosun, says the NUT boss misrepresented the teachers, describing the comment as unfortunate if it was actually signed by Akosile. He advised the teachers to choose leaders that would not trade off their welfare for a pot of soup, while also challenging Akosile to deny the various welfare packages for teachers during Fayemi's administration. With echoes of the year 2014 still to die, some Lagos residents have challenged the federal government to do everything in its power to provide solutions to problems besieging the country. They made this known against their expectations in year 2015. Omotayolo has more in this report.
Aside from the usual yearly individual resolutions and goals setting for personal development, these Lagosians say top priority on their list of expectations from government in the new year is security and
Unconfirmed reports say insurgents have dislodged multinational troops from their base in Baga, a small fishing town in Borno State near Lake Chad. The reports quoted an unnamed security official as the source of the story, but Nigeria's defense authorities are yet to speak on the matter. The attack was said to have happened at about 5 a.m. on Saturday and was described as one of the fiercest in recent times. Independent confirmation of the attack on the army base several hours after allegedly it took place. The multinational joint task force was created in the 1990s by the 6 countries bordering the Lake Chad to combat arms trafficking and cross-border attacks, but it later had its mandate expanded to cover terrorism at the onset of Boko Haram attacks in the area. Meanwhile, the crisis rocking some communities in Nasarawa State is taking its toll on many inhabitants and has forced many of them out of business. But some members of the largely agrarian communities have now converted their farming skills into creating a local quarry. Pai Samuel reports that the aged ones are also passing on the newly acquired skills to their children.
A truckload of these stones from this local quarry is sold for between 3,000 and 5,000 naira. That's about $30. But it takes this family almost a month to break and gather this pile. For now, they have to break some more stones to add up to this before putting them up for sale. This is the rock they blasted. They do it by igniting fire around it for hours and sometimes days. They trek long distances in search of sizable mountain which they could explore. After a long search, they finally settle here. But first, one may wonder what these children will be doing here when other kids are in school. Adamu is 11 years. He says he ran from his village when gunmen invaded the community and killed all his family members. For him, survival means a lot, hence the need to engage in this business.
This job is stressful. I have never done this kind of job before. I left school in the village because some people came to our village and started shooting and killing people, so I had to run for my life.
The experience of what bedeviled their village is still a shock to this little girl. So, she says helping her mother here became necessary as all their property and farm produce have been destroyed by gunmen. She maintains that she will want to go to school, but for now, this local quarry site is all that the family has for survival.
We have been working here for some time. We have to work hard every day. I want to go to school, but my mother have no money to send me to school.
From the same site, there are varieties of stones. This woman, apart from blasting the rock, she also can sense where some other rocks are hidden in the ground. So, she had to dig for several minutes before she could find the stones. As they continue in search of their daily bread, they still nurse hope that respite will come their way soon to enable them go back to their village. For these kids, breaking of stone is a daily routine before they will be able to have bread on their table. And today, they have also resumed here as early as 5:30 a.m. to make sure that they have the quantity of stones that they desire that will give them the financial strength they are looking for. Pius Samuel, CoreTV News, Nasarawa, Egon.
We'll take another break on the CoreTV Primetime News and we return with sports, business and all the stories outside Nigeria. Don't go away.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digi360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
And now to business. Nigeria's crude oil theft exports to Europe and Asia, two of the country's key markets, declined by 6.6 million barrels in September, further reducing the country's oil revenue at a time the plunge in global oil prices entered its third month. The fall in oil prices, which began in June 2014 when prices peaked at $115 per barrel, had led to a decline in the country's oil earnings, the major part of government's revenue. The Asian region, which is the major target market for many oil exporters, reduced its import of Nigeria's crude oil by 4.4 million barrels in the month to 18.9 million barrels. India, which has replaced the United States as Nigeria's biggest market, reduced its import of Nigeria's crude oil in September by 3.1 million barrels, among others. Not only has the U.S. drastically reduced its import of Nigeria's crude oil as a result of its increasing shale oil production, the country is gearing up to export its crude oil, with Asia being a key target destination. Asian and European demand for Nigeria and other West African cargoes has been slow so far, exacerbated by high freight rates and the availability of cheaper sweet crude in both regions. And now we move to the world of sport. Barcelona's Leonie Bobby Adekoye will be with Dutch giants PSV Eindhoven for at least the next 12 months. Reports emanating from the Spanish press on Wednesday had suggested that the winger will cut short his loan spell at the Dutch club and return to Barcelona's La Masia Academy in February. But Bobby's father, Ademola Adekoye, who acts as agent for him, has put to bed those arguments, insisting that a deal has already been struck for the player to remain in Holland until the end of this year. The highly rated starlet was allowed to leave Barcelona last year after FIFA sanctioned the club for violating the regulations on international transfers and registrations of foreign young players. South African Premier Soccer League club Ajax Cape Town are in advanced talks with Nigeria international Ibrahim Abubakar regarding a contract. If all issues are resolved, the attacker, who played for Nasarawa United last season, will travel to South Africa this week to undergo a medical before signing a 2-year deal. Ibrahim Abubakar put himself in the shop window at the 2014 African Nations Championship, and the Urban Warriors have decided to offer him a straight contract without him undergoing any trial. The 20-year-old tried his luck at Anderlecht in September, but nothing came out of it. He had earlier been linked with a move to Nigerian champions Kano Pillars at season end. Real Madrid's club record 22-match winning run has ended with defeat at Valencia's Mestalla Stadium, courtesy Nicolas Otamendi's fine header as Valencia came from behind to secure a famous victory. Cristiano Ronaldo's 14th minute penalty had put Real in front, his 33rd goal of the season, but the hosts Valencia got the equalizer through a deflected Antonio Barragan's shot 7 minutes into the second half. Otamendi then powered in a bullet header in from a corner to leave Madrid's place at the top of La Liga under threat, with Barcelona playing Real Sociedad later. It was Real's first defeat since they lost to City rivals and La Liga champions Atletico Madrid on 13th September. They will concede top spot to Barcelona if the Catalans beat David Moyes' Sociedad on Sunday night. The result lifted Valencia, beaten just once at home all season, into the Champions League places. Carlo Ancelotti's side would not have emphasized that scenario when they took an early lead through Ronaldo. After Gareth Bale had been fouled, a free kick from Toni Kroos was flicked on by Bale against the arm of on-loan Manchester City striker Alvaro Negredo. Ronaldo converted from the spot, but then missed an excellent chance to double Real's lead when he rounded goalkeeper Diego Alves, but from a tight angle shot into the side netting. And now to a story outside Nigeria. North Korea says new sanctions imposed in response to a major cyber attack against Sony Pictures is a part of a hostile and inflammatory U.S. policy against it. The U.S. placed sanctions on 3 North Korean organizations and 10 individuals after the FBI blamed Pyongyang for the cyber attack, which the communist nation denied but praised. It came as Sony was about to release The Interview after initially cancelling it due to the cyber attack. The film is a comedy about a plot to assassinate North Korea's president. The U.S. sanctions imposed on Friday are believed to be the first time the U.S. has moved to punish any country for cyber attacks on a U.S. company. In response, the North Korea state-run KCNA news agency on Sunday quoted a foreign ministry spokesman as saying the policy persistently pursued by the U.S. to stifle the DPRK and groundlessly stirring up bad blood towards it would only harden its will and resolution to defend the sovereignty of the country. Pope Francis has named 20 new cardinals, including churchmen from Tonga, Ethiopia, and Myanmar. 15 of the new appointees are under 80, making them eligible to enter a conclave to elect the Pope's successor. Pope Francis says the appointment of cardinals from 14 countries from every continent in the world shows the Vatican's inseparable link with Catholic churches around the world, with their formal installation expected on the 14th of February. Pope Francis also announced that he would lead a meeting of all cardinals to discuss reform of the Roman Curia, the Vatican's administrative body, on 12th and 13th February. The list of names include 5 retired bishops who will join the College of Cardinals but are over 80 and so cannot take part in a papal election. It is the second time Pope Francis has announced the appointment of new cardinals from a wide variety of countries. Last January, he named 19 new additions, including churchmen from Haiti and Burkina Faso, which a Vatican spokesman said reflected his commitment to the poor. Appointing cardinals is the most powerful way for the Pope to shape the Catholic Church. He has now chosen a quarter of all the cardinals able to vote for the next Pope. And that's it on CoreTV Primetime News. But before we go, a recap of the major stories. Reporter the President Goodluck Jonathan urged Nigerians not to despair and assured that the nation's future is bright. AP's presidential candidate Muhammadu Buhari and Lagos State Governor Babatude Fashola charged the federal government and Nigerians on peace and security. Finally, Tunde Bakare of the Latter Rain Assembly called for a shift of the 2015 general elections to avoid violence and bloodshed. Thank you so much for staying with us tonight. On behalf of the entire news crew, I am Ebulomo Adekunle saying have a wonderful week ahead.